Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my reaction channel. My name is Teddy90 and today we're going to be reacting to What If We Nuke a City by Kurzagot. If I think that's how you pronounce it, I can't really remember. Before we jump in, go like the video, go sub to Kurzagot and all that other good stuff. They deserve all the love and attention, all the other lovely stuff. These are the people who actually produce the content, and I'm just some guy who commentates and reacts on it. Now, let's jump on into it. Shall we? Oh, and for those curious as to why I missed a while, I've just had a really busy week. I can describe more at the end of the video if you're curious. Let's go.
Playing around with nuclear weapons in videos is fun.
True. In Fallout, using the mini nuke is always a great time.
There's a visceral joy in blowing things up and a horrifying fascination with things like fireballs, shockwaves, and radiation. And while it does help put our destructive power in perspective, it's not the best way of understanding the real impact of a nuclear explosion. This isn't about silly stacks of TNT or about how bright an explosion is. Nuclear weapons are about you. So we've partnered with the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement to explore what would really happen.
Red Cross and the Red Crescent are Christian and I'm assuming Muslim because that's like doctors and things like that, which are all about helping. Is it just soldiers in war zones, or is it like all different areas that need? It's like the original Doctors Without Borders type of deal, where it's just they go to different places and try to help people and things like that. I don't know if it's strictly. I know the the Red Cross started off as Christian, but I don't know if it still is. But the Red Crescent sounds like it probably is. Anyway, let's continue. Cool sponsors, by the way. That's. What'd you do, Mia? Sorry, my cats are being weird.
If a nuclear weapon were detonated in a major city today,
Nothing good. Nothing good would happen if a nuke was put off in a major city. There's actually interesting things that I like to look at with alternate history and everything else like that. Like what if like during the Cold War they somehow managed to snuggle a nuke into like LA or something and set it off and things like that. It's always interesting. Nukes are like the ultimate just, this city is gone now. Then nothing can live there. Nukes are a game changer.
Nuclear war, just one explosion. Nuclear war, if a nuclear weapon were detonated in a major city today. Not nuclear war, just one explosion.
If a nuke was fired, it would become war immediately. But if a terrorist organization or something managed to get a nuke into a city, I'm not sure what the government would do in response. Well, obviously, nothing good. The American government would likely nuke that entire country that the terrorist organization is primarily a part of. But it would be interesting to see the fallout. Not the fallout, but the actual, like, political fallout.
We begin our story in the middle of downtown in a major city. People are going to work, studying for exams, are lost in their thoughts and daily lives. Right here, I
don't know what it is, but every time it's like a major city that I picture a nuke going off in, for some reason my mind is always drawn to LA. Maybe it's because that's where Hollywood is and that's where they base most things. But you'd think it would be like New York or something, but I don't know. LA almost seems like the most logical target for an insurgency group if they wanted to set off a nuke.
Nuclear weapon is detonated and time freezes. The first phase of the explosion happens within less than a second.
Well, it depends on how strong the nuke is, but yeah.
In a millisecond, a ball of plasma hotter than the sun appears.
So, depending on the strength of the nuke, if it was like a Tsar bomb, I think everything within, what, like a couple dozen kilometers or something would be completely instantly vaporized. But depends on the side of the nuke of how large of a blast radius it would be. Everything around it would still be contaminated in a massive circle, but
and grows in a fireball to more than 2 kilometers across. Within this ball, everyone is just gone. Think of water dripped onto a very hot pan. A sizzle, and then there's nothing. Most buildings, cars, trees, tacky sculptures, and people, all evaporated.
Yeah, it's things like this. If you look at Japan and, is it Hiroshima? Hiroshima, shadows. You can see, you can see the different shadows that the bomb caused as they were burned into the ground. It's spooky, really. An old woman looks like, or a person with an umbrella, a man on a ladder, man trying to go up a ladder. It's spooky. What? I think that was somebody sitting there. Probably a homeless man. Or just like somebody sitting there, yeah. Kids jumping. Yeah. Nukes vaporize. Nukes just vaporize immediately.
First, the flash, an intense tsunami of light, washes over the city in an instant.
My cat's being
If you happen to have your head pointed in the direction of the explosion, it renders you blind for a few hours. The heat of this light produces a
it can also make you go blind permanently if you're a bit too close. Not close enough where you die instantaneously, not close enough that you die via the shockwave, but close enough that it can just go blind.
Thermal pulse, so energetic and hot that it just burns everything as far as 13 kilometers from the detonation site. What this means is that everything in an area of 500 square kilometers that is able to burn starts burning. Plastic, wood, fabric, hair and skin.
Yeah.
If you happen to be in reach of the thermal pulse, one moment you're on your way to work, the next moment you're on fire. Now the second phase begins. It happens in a few seconds. Most people will now first notice that something is wrong, but it's already too late for hundreds of thousands. The flash is followed by the shockwave.
Yeah, the shockwave will tear you apart if you get anywhere near it. That's why, if you see the intro of Fallout 4, like, they get hit by the shockwave as they're going down into the, like, the shockwave, like, the nuke goes off over here far enough away. Like, the sound wave goes off in Fallout 4. I don't know if you've ever played it, but, like, you're going down in it, and the shockwave's coming, and, like, just as you caress underneath it, the shockwave hits, but the shockwave would have dipped down also. So, like, in Fallout 4, they would have 100% died.
The heat and radiation of the fireball create a bubble of superheated and supercompressed air around it that's now expanding explosively. Faster than the speed of sound, creating winds stronger than hurricanes and tornadoes. Human infrastructure is no match for its power.
Yeah.
Most major buildings within a kilometer of the fireball are just ground up down to their base. Only steel-reinforced concrete is able to partially resist the pressure. In the surrounding parks where retirees feed the ducks, trees blackened and smouldering from the heat a second before snap like toothpicks. If you're outside, you get tossed away like a grain of dust in a tornado.
Yeah.
The shockwave weakens as it travels outwards, but still, about 175 square kilometers of houses collapse like they're made of cards, trapping tens of thousands of people who didn't have any time to react. Gas stations explode and fires spread throughout the rubble. A mushroom cloud made from the remains of the fireball, dust and ash rises kilometers into the sky in the next few minutes and casts a dark shadow over the ruined city. This violently pulls in fresh air surrounding the city, destroying more buildings and providing an abundance of oxygen. It depends on the city what happens next. If there's enough fuel, fires may turn into a firestorm that burns the rubble, everybody trapped in it, and people trying to flee the devastation. Up to 21 kilometers from the explosion, people just like you rush to their windows to take pictures of the mushroom cloud.
Yeah, you don't want to be... Honestly, if a nuke goes off and you aren't already far outside of blast radius, you're already pretty much effed in the A. But you definitely don't... If a nuke goes off and you're not inside of its blast radius, don't stop to take a picture. Don't stop to grab anything. Get the hell out. Don't stop. Like, seriously, don't go stop to pick up your grant. Like, don't do anything. Just go. Because the radiation is coming for you, and it's coming for you fast. Either you need to get out of the city immediately, or far enough away, or you need to find somewhere bunkered underground, preferably lead lined, but you're not going to find that. But, like, an underground bunker or something like that would probably do you wonders.
Unaware that the shockwave is still coming at them, about to shatter their windows and create a blizzard of
that too. The shockwave will hit you very, very far away.
Sharp glass. The third phase begins in the coming hours and days. We're used to the idea that help will come no matter the disaster. This time is different. A nuclear explosion is like every natural disaster at once. There are hundreds of thousands or millions of people with serious injuries, lacerations, broken bones, serious burns. In the next few minutes and hours, thousands more will die because of these injuries. Countless people are trapped in collapsed buildings like in earthquakes, or blinded by the flash, deaf from the blast wave, and unable to flee through streets impassable with rubble and debris. They're terrified, confused, and don't know what's happened to them or why. Most likely, many hospitals have been leveled along with all the other buildings, and most medical professionals are either dead or injured along.
Yeah, it would tear about the entire city. Any infrastructure within the city would be completely gone. You'd have to be waiting for out of state, or out of the blast radius, I suppose I should say. But that help would be slow coming for the most part, if they even managed to get in there. I have a feeling they would probably declare most of those people almost entirely gone, especially the people closest to the center. So if you're like living downtown of a city, you're not getting saved. There's a very unlikely chance you're going to get saved. They'll probably start from the outside and move in, because they won't be able to get in that fast, and everybody in is probably already dead or too far gone for them to even bother.
Along with everyone else. The survivors lucky enough to have been in metro tunnels or standing in the right place to be unburned and unhurt won't have truly escaped harm yet. Depending on the type of weapon, where it explodes, and even the weather, an awful black rain can begin, with radioactive ash and dust descending on the city, covering everything and everyone. The invisible, malicious, silent horror of radiation takes its turn. Every breath carries poison to the lungs of the survivors. Over the coming days, the people who received the highest doses of radiation exposure will die. There will be no help, not for hours or maybe even days. Civilization doesn't operate when there is a total breakdown of infrastructure. Roads are blocked, train tracks warped, runways cluttered with rubble. No water, no electricity, no communication, no stores to replenish supplies from. Help from surrounding cities will have a hard time entering the disaster zone, and even if they can, the radioactive contamination will make it risky to get too close. After a nuclear attack, you're on your own. So, bit by bit, people emerge from the rubble, on foot, contaminated with radioactive fallout, carrying what little they may have left. They are slow, in pain, traumatized, and they all need food, water, and medical treatment fast. And the damage done by a nuclear weapon doesn't end when the fires burn out and the smoke clears. The hospitals in the neighboring cities are under-equipped for a disaster of this scale and overwhelmed with tens or hundreds of thousands of patients with serious injuries. In the weeks, months...
Yeah, you saw this, if you watched Chernobyl, you saw the similar thing happen with that. Like, even the surrounding cities were affected, although the Chernobyl disaster was many times worse than a nuclear bomb going off. But you saw this with that. Like, even the cities around would have to be evacuated, depending on how close the cities are, depending where this happened, things like that. And the surrounding hospitals will not be in a position to really help you, at least not help you well, because you don't really expect a nuke going off, right? Like, you don't expect to need to treat 100,000 people in a hospital in, like, 2 hours or they all die. You can't prepare for that, and no hospital should be required to try, because that's insanity. So yeah, if a nuclear blast goes off and you're in the air, it's, yeah, there's a reason there is, especially back during the Cold War, there was so many like, oh, build your bunker and things like that, because like we can't come to help you if you get hit by a bomb. Like, you're on your own. We really can't come to help you if you get hit by a bomb.
And years to come, many of those who survived will succumb to cancers like leukemia. The reason no government wants you to think about all this is because there is no serious humanitarian response possible to a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
There's no way to really help the immediate...
It's just too much. It's just too much all at once. There's a reason why nukes don't get used. Not just because we're scared of ending it all, which we are. It's also because once you use it, you shut down that country for a while. Or at least you shut down that particular section of the country for a while. It's not easy to recover from. It's like setting off a tsunami on someone's lands. It's just not okay.
Victims of a nuclear attack. This is not a hurricane, wildfire or earthquake or nuclear accident. It is all of these things at once, but worse. No nation on Earth is prepared to deal with it. The world has changed in the past few years, with world leaders again explicitly and publicly threatening each other with nuclear weapons. Many experts think the danger of a nuclear strike is higher than it has been in decades. Governments tell their citizens that it's good that we have nuclear weapons, but it's bad when anyone else gets them. That it's somehow necessary to threaten others with mass destruction to keep us safe. But does this make you feel safe? It only takes a small group of people with power to go crazy or rogue, a small misstep or a simple misunderstanding to unleash a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Exploding stuff in videos is fun. Exploding things in real life, not so much. There is a solution though. Eliminating all nuclear weapons and vowing never to build them again. In 2017, almost 2/3 of all the world's countries, supported by hundreds of civil society organizations.
Yeah, that is the way to do it, but unfortunately, because of the way the UN is set up, after the fall of World War II, the UN unfortunately developed this thing, which kept the great powers great and everybody else not. All there is one, I think it's either 1 or 2 seats that are transitory, but it's the Defense Council, which they have veto on anything that happens in the UN. So, I think it's 7 countries, giving 7 countries veto power, even if 1 or 2 of them are put on rotation, but the rest of them, I think, are stuck. I think it's Russia, Britain, China, France, and Russia are the 4 main ones, or the 5 main ones. I think US, Britain, China, Russia, France. I think those are the 5 main ones, and then the rest are on retainer. But yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to put that veto power into people's hands. That's why the UN is kind of inefficient, because the great powers hold veto power over anything that it's like. So the UN can't get teeth because, unfortunately, we have grandfathered in countries. If we want the UN to be functional, we need to get rid of that.
And the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement agreed to prohibit and eliminate nuclear weapons. It's not about who has nuclear weapons and who doesn't. The weapons themselves are the problem. They are deeply immoral and an existential threat to all of us. No matter what country you come from,
there is never an acceptable time to use a nuke. Right? Like, it's never acceptable. There's never a military point in time where it is acceptable to use a nuke unless you have already been nuked, right? So, like, the person who first files a nuke, there's never a reason to be the person who first fires a nuke, ever. There's no diplomatic or military situation that calls for being the first person to use a nuke. Second person to use a nuke, I dislike that, but I understand where they're coming from. You do have to, unfortunately, retaliate. But being the first person to use a nuke is never acceptable, so we really need to get rid of all of them. Because there is never a good reason to use it unless you've been nuked.
No matter what political side you find yourself on, we need to demand that they disappear forever.
They aren't helpful. They don't help discussions or anything like that. All they are giant humanity death balls. We don't need those. We don't need the sort of Damocles hanging over our head because of a bunch of dumb politicians think they need to waggle themselves out a bit more. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all.
This will not happen without pressure. If you want to be part of this pressure, there are things you personally can do too. Visit notonukes.org to learn more about nuclear weapons and what you can do about them.
That was a great video. Wow, Kurtzagot always produces great videos, so yeah, that was fun. I like nukes. Well, not really. Hi, Mia. Do you want to say hi? Say hi, Mia. Meow, meow, meow. Alright, If you like that video, go sub to Kurtzgot and go like the video. They deserve all the love and happiness and everything else in the world. If you like my commentary on this, it's less of a reaction, more of a commentary. If you like my commentary on this, give me a like, give me a sub, go join my Twitch, go join my Discord. My Discord is where I tell people what I'm up to. My Twitch is where I occasionally play video games. Yeah, I think that's it. Shit, sorry. I'm kind of high right now. If you guys wondered why I haven't been uploading video in the past week, it's because I have a new job and I'm kind of super busy right now. So, I'll try to produce videos whenever I can, but don't expect consistency by any stretch. Oh, if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the doobly-doo. I'd appreciate comments instead of dislikes or likes. Like, I'm happy with likes and dislikes, but I would prefer comments as to what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. It helps me actually learn. And apart from that, I've been me, you've been you. Love, butts, and happiness, and all that other good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, my lads and ladditos.